Welcome all to the Pro Football Radio Podcast. This is your co-host Jay Chiba coming to you with another podcast with my boy Kuma from Merrimack, New Hampshire.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're still recording through Skype, but hey, it's better than nothing. We're honing our craft. We're having guests on. We're 3-4 months into a global pandemic, but hey, fuck it. We're doing the best that we can.
Listen, man, I don't mind this whole Skype thing. At the end of the day, I kind of enjoy it. I don't think we'll ever go back to being in the same studio again, right?
Right. I mean, it seems like easier, definitely to get guests on. Before we were like, oh, how much are we going to have to spend for a soundboard? How are we going to hook it up? How are we going to do all this crap? And it's just like, you know, you can record with like 50 people on a Skype call if you really wanted to.
Yeah, man. And the best part is I never have to see people ever again.
Yeah, this is true. This is true. I'm kind of with you on that. Like, I'm kind of like, I hate people, but like, I love gatherings. So it's weird. Like, I hate going to the grocery store, but last week we went out for our boy Zach's birthday at a winery up in like, I don't know, maybe 45 minutes from where we live in Southern Connecticut. And it was a great time. That was enough dosage for gatherings. Like, that's really all I needed. I needed a quick fix.
Dude, like I've realized, I don't know if you've felt this as well, but going through quarantine, it kind of changes you in a weird way, right? And picking up on social cues, like just like being social is a skill, just like, you know, throwing a football or shooting a basketball. And if you don't practice that skill, it diminishes, right? If that makes sense. And I've realized, like in social gatherings the last couple of weeks, like I just don't know what to do, what to say. You know, I'm not my normal jovial self for the most part, but it's like, well, I don't understand. Like, is it something I got to work on? I got to practice? Do you feel?
No, I was the same way. I finally was able to get my hair cut last week. And, you know, I walk into the barbershop and I got the mask on. You had to make an appointment. And I walk in and the guy just like points me over to the seat. And before I even sit down, like he puts his hand out to shake it. And it's like, do I do it? Do I not? Is it faux pas? And at the end of the day, it was like, I have like a gallon of hand sanitizer in the car. I don't fucking care. Like, I'm just gonna do it. But that's like the new norm. Like, what do you do now in meetings? Like, are you gonna have a full staff meeting, or is it going to be small individual groups with like 3 office seats in between you? Like, it's definitely like muscle memory at this point. And I think like our social muscles have just like atrophied over the last 3-4 months.
Mm-hmm. Well, like, I wonder how this is going to affect the business setting, right? I mean, are we all going to go the way the Japanese and start bowing, right? Is handshake going to be something out of the norm?
Right.
I mean, we've been doing what is this? The elbow fist pump things? Like,
right. Like, you know, the flying elbow from a UFC fight.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know, man. But I'm, and it seems like with all the reports out there, this thing isn't going away anytime soon, right?
Oh, absolutely not, dude. Like, Texas.
We're in the long haul for this shit.
Oh, yeah. I just saw a tweet maybe about like 30 minutes ago from a reporter on the, I think he covers the Washington Post, or he used to. And Harris County, Texas, that's the county that covers the Houston Metroplex. They put out like a severe alert level 1 saying like the virus is ravaging the county. Don't go out. The hospitals are at capacity. Like, they basically said, if you go out, we might not have room for you in a hospital. Like, that is literally what their text message alert said. And yeah, this is not going away anytime soon, and it's going to get real interesting come August when, you know, training camp is, you know, we're going to be in the swing of that. I think they came out and said that they're going to be starting training camp on time, which I want to see how that's going to go.
Yeah, I mean, from the NFL's perspective, the best thing going for them is they have the luxury of time.
Right.
They have the luxury of seeing how MLB and NHL and NBA is going to kick off in a month and see how they're going to respond. Now, obviously, September is still, 2.5 months away, July and August, right? So we still got some time. But like everybody's saying, man, it's not looking very positive in regards to the start of an NFL season on time.
Nope. I think that's why they built in that kind of little fail-safe with not only just with how fluid the Super Bowl schedule is, but like how the bye weeks were arranged. Like, you know, we said this I want to say maybe 3 episodes ago with the schedule release episode, that the week 2 opponents for whatever given team that is, that week 2 opponent, they share a bye week, say week 8 or 10 or whatever. So you might be able to reschedule stuff if you push the season back a couple of weeks.
Yeah, and I hope they do it right, man. I hope they don't do this thing where they jump the gun and they start the NFL season and then halfway through they got to stop it. That's gonna be the worst thing for everybody involved. Either you play the season or you don't. In my mind, you don't do this bullshit where you start, you stop halfway through, then you start again. So they're doing the due diligence and figuring out if it's safe enough to start for those guys.
Yep, for sure.
Well, we're at episode number 55, and today's episode is going to be a special one because we're going to have another guest on. We did the whole guest thing last week, and a couple weeks ago, and it worked out really well. We got some great feedback, and the guys that we had on gave us some great perspective. This week, we're going to bring on Mike the Hammertime from the West Coast. He's been a colleague of mine for a couple of years, a great dude, and I've known him for a while now. Hung out with him outside of work as well. Cool as hell, loves football. We're going to get him on here. We're going to pick his brain, see what his thoughts are, and then we're going to go from there.
Yeah, let's do it. Hammer time.
In regards to the content of the week for the podcast, what we're going to do is we're actually going to go ahead and give you guys a breakdown of what we see as the offseason moves. Essentially, we're going to look at every single division and see which teams have the best offseason moves. This is taking into account both trades, free agency, and the draft, essentially wrapping up the whole offseason and kind of looking at it from a macro view. And then we're going to give you our division winners and then also our playoff teams that will reach the playoffs and then potentially a way too early Super Bowl pick as well.
Oh, yeah, I went nuts. Like, I'm going to call my way too early prediction the Michael Keaton Batman, Jack Nicholson Joker scene where he says, "You want to get nuts? Like, let's get nuts." Like, that is my way too early playoff prediction. So this is going to be a good one.
Is this one of those patented Puma, throw something against the wall conspiracy theory picks?
No. If we're going to call it that, we might as well call it the Colin Cowherd effect. But no, I use a little bit of, logic and stats and, gut feeling to an extent, but I gotta have some facts that back up my predictions. So
did we get the picks right last year? Did both of us get a team in?
So the NFC, I know for me, the NFC was definitely below 50%. I think I hit mostly above like 50% in the AFC. The AFC, I know I did a decent job with. The NFC, I just completely whiffed on. But we'll see what happens with this complete let's get nuts plan that I have here.
Nice. All right. Well, without further ado, let's bring on Mike the Hammer Time.
Hammer time!
And without further ado, Mike Parentino, a.k.a. the Hammer Time, has joined the Pro Football Radio podcast. Welcome aboard, Mike.
Thank you, gentlemen. It is a pleasure being an honorable guest on this fabulous podcast.
So I'm sure you've already, heard the Puma via the podcast, but this is the first time you're going to talk to him.
Yeah, absolutely. I've just seen his spectacular Instagram feed and listen to the show on a weekly basis. So yeah, it's a pleasure to actually speak with the legend himself.
Oh, from one legend to another, the honor is all mine, Mike. The honor is all mine.
Mike, how's things out there on the West Coast, man?
It's from a virus standpoint, it's not great. There's a huge spike. Luckily, we're not the biggest spike of the states, but business, is booming for us. To be honest with you, it's crazy how quickly things have kind of bounced back in the aviation industry.
Yeah, and you're spot on right there, man. A lot of industry projections were giving us the whole V pattern where it bottoms out and then it'll bounce right back, which is the best way of doing it. The worst thing that could happen to us is have one of those Nike swooshes where essentially you bottom out, but then you take a long time to recover. But you're right, man. It seems like it's starting to pick back up fairly quickly. Luckily, you guys aren't as bad as Texas and Florida, where apparently they don't give a fuck at all. I mean, it's been like 2 weeks and they're out there just kissing people on the mouth in the middle of the street, random ass people.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I was in Scottsdale a couple weeks ago, and it was the weekend that Floyd Mayweather hit the club, and he
Hmm.
was
Oh
throwing
God.
dollars everywhere, and people were flocking to Scottsdale, and now all of a sudden it's one of the biggest hot spots, in the country.
Yep. For sure.
Because
Mike,
out there, nobody was wearing masks.
for sure. Mike, what county do you live in out there? You're not in LA County, are you?
I'm not. I'm in Ventura County. And
Okay.
luckily, my county hasn't spiked very much at all. I think
Gotcha.
there's only been like 44 deaths and 2,300 cases, and it's really been steady in this county, which is fantastic. The rest of LA just keeps growing, but Ventura County isn't too bad compared to everywhere else.
Gotcha.
Nice. All right, Hammer Time. So essentially, the way we're going to do this is we're going to run through each division, and both myself and DePuma are just going to give like the quick grade of each division and which division winner we're going to have. And from there, we'll just turn it over to you and get your thoughts on that as well. What's your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. I'll give you guys my best perspective. I don't know if you know DePuma, but I'm a basketball guy. I mean, I played basketball in college, so my knowledge is more in basketball, but I will absolutely give you guys my best opinion.
Gotcha.
Mike,
No, I've seen your handles on your IG page, man. I got you.
Okay, all right.
Mike, where
I'm
did you
glad
play
you're a fan.
basketball at?
I went to school at a small private school. It's a Division II school called Hawaii Pacific University.
In Hawaii?
Yes, in Hawaii, my friend.
Dude, what a badass.
Why the hell did you come back?
You know what? I'm telling. I would have never came back, but if it wasn't for my little brother, that was the reason why I came back. Because I had to help my little brother make sure he graduated.
For sure. Okay. All right.
Family's everything.
Yes, sir.
So I googled Hawaii Pacific. I'm looking at the images and of the university, and I see a statue of Mike Parentino outside the basketball facility.
You know it. I'm out there like Michael Jordan.
Oh shit. Was that on the Big Island, Mike, or where was it?
It's on the island of Oahu, so it's where like downtown Honolulu. We had two campuses. Like one was in downtown, the other was up in the mountains a city called Kaneohe.
Okay.
And I spent like my freshman year in Kaneohe, and then transitioned to downtown, and I was living all over the place. I was living in Waikiki, Honolulu. I lived on the North Shore for a little bit of a time.
Oh, Pipeline, all right.
Yeah, Pipeline, Waimea. I mean, those are my stomping grounds.
Okay.
Now, Mike, were you born and raised in California?
Yeah, I'm from San Francisco. So my nickname, my triple OG nickname.
Wait a minute, you got
Frisco.
two nicknames?
I do.
It's Mikey P. You surprised?
It's Frisco. So my name's Mike, and when I went to school in Hawaii, the first two people, I shit you not, that I met that became my best friends in Hawaii were both named Mike. So 3 Mikes hanging out the whole time I lived in Hawaii. There was no possible way. So immediately we came up with nicknames. Mine was dubbed Frisco since I was from San Francisco. So that was my OG nickname from the start. So if you want to say my name is Mike, a.k.a. Frisco, a.k.a. Mikey P, a.k.a. Hammertime.
Jesus, what are we talking? We talking to Apollo Creed here with this 19 intros before fight night, before he even takes the top hat off? Damn.
What can I say? People call me the Don over here.
My bad.
Mike UP, what a legend. All right, man. Well, let's start with the AFC East. Puma, you want to give your quick thoughts on how the division shaked out after the offseason moves and who you think will win the division?
Yeah. So really, the Dolphins, they made kind of the big splashes in free agency, in my opinion, with the signing of Byron Jones, and then they went after Kyle Van Noy. They shored up the running back position by getting Jordan Howard off of free agency. They traded for Matt Breida on draft day. The Bills, their big splash was they traded for Stephon Diggs, just another guy to stretch the field for Josh Allen. The Pats, they stood pat for the most part. I guess like the one big transaction was Tom Brady leaving, and the Jets. The Jets really all they did, from my notes here, was they got Mims in the second round of the draft, another weapon for Sam Darnold. But really, the winners out of this division were the Bills and the Dolphins.
Yeah, see, and I don't see it that way, man. With the Patriots, man, I thought it was more, they didn't really stand pat, man, because they let, obviously, Tom Brady go, but then they also let Jamie Collins, Kyle Van Noy, Danny Shelton, I mean, all just kind of left, and they never really replaced them. So I think in my mind, the Pats earned a D- in a grade if I was to give them one. I think the Dolphins earned an A- because they got a bunch of picks. They got a bunch of people coming in regards to Matt Breida, Xavier Howard, and they also drafted Tua Tagovailoa for their future. And then I think the Buffalo Bills also ended up getting an A in my book because they ended up bringing in Stephon Diggs, and they also brought in AJ Espinoza. So I think for the most part, if I had to pick right now, I think the Buffalo Bills are going to win that division.
Oh, for sure. I have them winning the division as well, too. I mean, not even just the free agency aspect in the draft, but, they have one of the best rosters on paper in the NFL, at least depth-wise. And I think, we saw the emergence of John Brown last year with his route tree. He can do the intermediate routes. He can stretch the ball. He can stretch the field, and just Stephon Diggs to complement on the outside and Cole Beasley underneath. And I think Dawson Knox, the tight end, is going to take a giant step forward. So, give me the Bills in this division all day and, twice on Sunday.
Hammertime, who you got winning this division?
No, I agree with you guys 100%. I think the Pats just took a dump. They really should have. They should have kept Brady. It did whatever possible need for him to stay there. Get him whatever he wants. I mean, at least for the time being. But yeah, the Tua draft I thought was a great pickup. That's a good start for the beginning of their franchise to kind of blossom, because they are absolutely trash.
And, hurt my feelings,
Bills,
Mike.
The Bills are just, they're slowly but surely getting better and better every year. So I completely agree with you guys on that one. I would have given the Pats a D- as well.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm glad that you said that, because a lot of people are blindly putting their faith in the Patriot system and the Belichick way. But when you don't have a franchise Hall of Fame quarterback, it makes the rest of it harder. I mean, the Patriot system can only take you so far, but you're gonna need a bona fide quarterback to take you over the hump.
Oh yeah, for sure, and especially in the locker room. For the players, it's like when things were going bad or going good, Tom Brady always had a voice. And now I heard from the players, they were giving interviews earlier today. What's it called? The McCaffrey brothers. They were saying like they don't have that voice in the locker room now, which is a complete shift in how their team operates.
Yeah. Makes sense. Okay, cool. The next division we're going to touch on is the AFC North. And looking at this division, man, you got to look at the top dogs. I give the Baltimore Ravens an A-. It's an embarrassment of riches on offense, and they added J.K. Dobbins out of Ohio State. Couple that with, Calais Campbell on the defensive end, you're going to see these guys win the division again in my eyes. Some great moves that are made by the Cleveland Browns. They really went all out in free agency. They brought in tight end Austin Hooper. They shored up the line with Jack Conklin, and they hired a new head coach in the guy from Minnesota, Stefanski. So all in all, I think both Baltimore and Cleveland did great jobs in the offseason, and I'm going to actually go with Baltimore winning the division.
Yeah, I second that. I have Baltimore winning the division as well, too. And not only just the Calais Campbell trade that they got, another veteran presence in that locker room. They drafted Patrick Queen in the first round. Like typical fashion, he fell to them. I believe it was the late 20s in the draft this year. And, it's just going to fill a void that, Ray Lewis and Terrell Suggs left behind when they left. And, I think he could be Ray Lewis 2.0. I know that's real early to say that, but I think he could really shore up that position. The Steelers, to me, in this division, I think they're going to be the ultimate X factor, just because They were an 8-8 team with a guy named Duck and Mason Rudolph getting his head taken off by Myles Garrett. If they had a competent quarterback back there, they probably would have made the playoffs. So I think, if Big Ben is able to come back, his elbow holds up, and he's not asked to drop back 40 times to get obliterated in the pocket, I think they could do some damage. And I have them actually as a wild card team, especially if they move Juju Smith-Schuster inside his more natural position.
Well,
nice.
Did you hear that Ben had a come to Jesus moment, and he's opened up about his struggles with addiction and porn and all this stuff? So he says that he's coming out this year firing.
But Mike, when I read those comments, I was like, but that's all of us in quarantine. Like, I'm not doing anything different.
Absolutely.
Like, do I have to go get some help as well now?
Oh my God.
Mike, before you got on board, I was telling Puma, I actually kind of caved, and I gave $50 to OnlyFans.
Wow.
Quarantine is a interesting time, my man.
Oh, for sure. I think there's probably been like maybe a handful of days where I haven't touched a sip of alcohol. I mean, it's just the wave of the future. Work at home, drink a couple beers, and figure out the rest of your day.
It's basically it, my man. Basically it.
There's been times where I've been on calls and I shouldn't be drinking, but I have. We got like
always the dream.
Yeah,
we just have a drink at work. Why? Well, now you can.
Yeah, it's Mad Men 2020. It's fine.
We got like VPs and like heads of companies in our calls, and I'm just like, I'm gonna be back here just pounding away a vodka,
Absolutely.
Mike, did you end up picking your winner out of the AFC North?
I agree with you guys. I mean, Baltimore is just by far to me the favorite. I mean, Lamar he's ultimately Michael Vick 2.0, and I feel like he's getting better and better every single year. I don't think anybody's going to come close to what they produced last year. So I got them being number one. A in my book, and Cincinnati's going to stay in the F category for a while.
Well, I mean, listen, at the end of the day, they made some decent moves. Obviously, they drafted Joe Burrow for the future, but I mean, it's just way too early for them to make any noise at all.
You're right. It is.
They were very active in free agency, right? They brought in defensive end DJ Reader, and then also they brought in Trey Wayne. So I think they made decent moves, but for the most part, I mean, they're just going to be sitting in the back of that division for a couple of years because it's so competitive, right? You got the Ravens, you got Big Ben. You've got Baker Mayfield and the Browns up there who you don't know if it could be bad. So I think Cincinnati is going to be kind of sitting in the rear for a while.
Yeah, call me the crackhead. I think they're going to surprise people and hear me out. So they didn't have their first overall pick last year, or first rounder, I should say, Jonah Williams. He was done for the year. He separated his shoulder before mini camp. But if he's able to come back and shore up that offensive line, Joe Mixon was running like a man possessed the last 6 weeks of the season last year, and that was behind an offense without A.J. Green. Auden Tate got banged up, and I think it was Tyler Boyd. He was really the only healthy body at wide receiver. If they're able to shore up that offensive line and Mixon can pick up where he left off with all these weapons coming back in the form of A.J. Green, I believe he signed his franchise tag. I'm not saying they're going to win the division, but they might play spoiler in a AFC North that's basically gladiator football because they're the only slouch on the defensive side of the football right now. So I think they can surprise some people.
Okay. All right, well, might have to make a side bet on that then.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And yes, I am drinking. I cracked a beer right before Mikey P came on.
I was going to be like, well, so how much have you been drinking today, Puma?
I think it's my fourth beer. Spaced out.
I think I'm on 3.
Okay, up next, the AFC South, man. And I was looking at this division, and the Texans, I think, had one of the worst off seasons I can remember in a long time, right? Let's start with Bill O'Brien.
It's Billo the Clown. Billo the Clown.
It's not bad enough that he lost a 24-point lead against the Chiefs in the playoffs, he had to go out and trade away a generational wide receiver in DeAndre Hopkins for essentially a busted up, beat up, end of the career David Johnson, right? And then he goes out, brings Brandon Cooks, who has suffered, like 5 NFL concussions in the last few years. And then to top it all off, they had to give Laremy Tunsil a bunch of money. And I'm looking at all the moves they made this offseason. I'm giving them a F straight up, man. There's absolutely no way the Texans are going to be contending for anything anytime soon because of all this bad. Right. The team that I really liked out of this division is the Indianapolis Colts, man. I give them an A for their offseason. They drafted Jonathan Tyler, the running back out of Wisconsin. They brought in Phillip Rivers. And on the defensive end, man, they had DeForest Buckner and Xavier Rhodes come in. So all in all, I think the Colts are going to win this division. I think the Titans kind of stood pat. They really didn't make any moves. They kind of doubled down on Ryan Tannehill, who I think is just not that great of a quarterback. But I think the Colts are going to end up winning this division.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I have the Colts winning the division, too. And, Phillip Rivers, he has a history with Frank Reich and the offensive coordinator, Nick Sirianni, from their San Diego days. For 2014, 2015, when they were together, he averaged 30 touchdowns, 15 and a half interceptions, 4,500 yards, and about a 66.3 completion percentage. If he can do just that this season with a healthy T.Y. Hilton. You have Paris Campbell coming back. They drafted, like you said, they drafted a running back, and they already have Marlon Mack back there. If he doesn't have to chuck dying quails into the secondary and can just run the football, I think that they're going to run away with this division easily. And then just the Titans, just to piggyback off of what you said, I think a lot is going to hinge on, can Derrick Henry keep up the production that he had last year, this year? Because I think he toted the rock like 450 times. Is his body going to be able to recover from that even under these quarantine times? That's still a gigantic workload for a power running back. So that's going to be interesting to see.
Teams are going to develop new types of defenses to stop him.
Absolutely. Mikey, who you got winning this division, the AFC South?
Definitely the Colts. I think that they're the way to go. I mean, I really like that Phillips Rivers trade. I mean, the guy is just a gamer. Like, you can tell he just wants to win no matter what his age is. Like, he will be a gamer until somebody, just basically cuts his legs from him. I think,
go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, like, when you work so hard and bust your ass for a franchise, and then all of a sudden they shut the door on you, like, it just fuels you even more to want to beat the shit out of everybody else. So I just feel like he's just coming into this new team and he just wants to win, and I feel that with that new team and new coaching, they're going to do very well.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with you, man. Spot on. And deep down, man, I really want Phillip Rivers to walk away with the Super Bowl win, man. The guy has been in it for so long, man. He seems like a good dude. I love his trash talking, Right. I just want him to walk away with a Super Bowl before all ends.
At least for the 9 kids. He's got to win one for the 9 kids. Imagine that whole family rolling up like the Beverly Hillbillies into Indianapolis. That's going to be a fun friggin' time.
So he's got 9 kids plus himself and his wife. So he's got 11 people, which is essentially an offense.
Yeah, he can run 11 personnel.
It's like, my man, do you know what pullout means? Come on.
Seriously.
Yeah, good Christian boy like him never knew nothing like that.
Next up, the AFC South, man. Listen, it's very simple. The Kansas City Chiefs, their whole philosophy is, we're going to go out there, we're going to score 1 million points. We don't really care about defense as much as we should, but we're going to go ahead and outscore you. And this offseason, all they did was they just added to that offense. They brought in what in my mind is a Darren Sproles kind of clone, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the running back out of LSU. And this kid's going to do wonders for that offense, man. It's going to open up a brand new set of plays, brand new set of schemes. I think the Kansas City Chiefs are going to be even more deadlier than ever before. I give them a B for their offseason moves, and I'm going to have them win the division. But the dark horse out of the division, out of the AFC West, is going to be the Denver Broncos. Looking at their draft and their offseason moves, man, I'm going to give them a B+ because they added quite a bit of high-level talent, right? They got Jerry Jeudy, Lloyd Cushenberry, KJ Hamler. They brought in Melvin Gordon, the running back from the Chargers, to help out as well, and then AJ Bouye. So I mean, I think they're the trendy AFC dark horse pick here, but I can see them making some noise if the quarterback Drew Lock actually progresses as he's supposed to, and I'm going to give them an A for their offseason moves.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I mean, really, the Chiefs. Enough said. They're going to win the division. They're probably a 14-win team as the floor. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he's been getting Brian Westbrook comps as well too. So I mean, we've all seen what Westbrook did in an Andy Reid offense in Philadelphia. So Clyde Edwards-Helaire might be a guy I'm targeting in fantasy. But I'm 100% with you on the Broncos. I have them as my first AFC wildcard team. I think they could be possibly a 9 to 10 win team. I like the pick of Jerry Jeudy to complement, Cortland Sutton already being there. You have KJ Hamler. The defensive side of the football, I really like that AJ Bouye pick to fill the void that Chris Harris left when he went to Los Angeles. So I really like the Broncos. It's going to be interesting to see how it works out with the quarantine because they haven't been able to have face-to-face meetings. It's a new offensive system under Pat Shurmur. So it's going to be interesting to see how they're able to pick up and adapt to that.
Cool. My man, Mike, who do you got winning this division, the AFC?
I mean, Chiefs all the way. I mean, there's nobody's going to contend with them. I for 1 year, I'm from the Bay Area, so I've always followed the Raiders. Niners have always been the team since I was a kid. But just 1 year, I would like for them to make some noise. And every single year that Derek Carr is the quarterback it's just something is wrong with him. And
he's checked down Charlie.
Yeah, it's just they paid him too much, and ever since then he hasn't produced, and it's driving me insane. I want them to win.
Mike, I think what you gotta watch here is you gotta watch that pickup of Marcus Mariota. They brought him in to sit behind Derek Carr, but you gotta wonder how long is Derek Carr's leash, man? If they're 2-4,
absolutely.
If they're 2-4, 6 weeks in, and the team seems to be performing okay, but the quarterback's holding you back, who's to say, they're not going to pull the plug and, throw Marcus Mariota out there and see what he's going to do. And I like Mariota, man. I liked him coming out of college.
I do too. He's from Hawaii.
Dude can move. He's from Hawaii. He's got a good head on his shoulders. Seems like he's in the playbook. It just seems like he just didn't get to put it all together in Tennessee. He had a couple good years, but I tell you what, man, this might be a fresh start for Marcus Mariota's career as well.
For sure. I hope there's some serious competition in preseason.
For sure.
Training camp.
I think like a big key is, they picked up Henry Ruggs. I mean, he is a speedster. He can stretch the field. Derek Carr or Mariota, I mean, they're both check down Charlie type quarterbacks. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. You can make a career off of it. But if you're getting a speed guy on the outside, it's like the ghost of Al Davis made that draft pick this year. You better throw the ball downfield. I mean, imagine if you have Tyrell Williams, who's always been a bona fide number 2. You have Darren Waller, who had a breakout season as a tight end last year. If they can just throw the ball down the friggin' field, that offense could make noise. They overachieved a little bit last year. If they're able to just open the playbook up a little bit more, I think they could surprise some people.
Yeah. Well, they were supposed to bust out last year. Remember, they were supposed to have speed coming in, and unfortunately, that moron can't keep his trap shut for more than 20 seconds. But he was supposed to be that guy, and they were supposed to put it all together last year. But I do think Derek Carr's clock is ticking. Like, there's 2 quarterbacks that we got to watch this year. It's Baker Mayfield up in Cleveland because what's his face? Who's the guy sitting behind him? Puma. What's his name?
Case Keenum.
Case Keenum. So Case Keenum is a Kevin Stefanski guy, and I guarantee you, if they're 6 weeks in and Baker Mayfield's thinking it up, Case Keenum's going to start. And same thing in Oakland.
Dark horse.
Exactly right. Same thing in Oakland. Marcus Moore is going to be kind of thrown in there as well. Okay, cool. Well, that wraps up the AFC. Let's move over to the NFC, and let's start with the NFC East, where there's always so much fucking drama. In regards to so I had quite a bit of tough time with the NFC East, just because every single year you really don't know what's going to happen. And I think the 2 teams you really got to watch are the Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles. I think I'm going to give the Dallas Cowboys an edge here and have them win the division because of some of the moves they made. I love that CeeDee Lamb pickup, man. That dude's going to do wonders for that offense alongside Amari Cooper. They obviously signed up Dak Prescott on the franchise tender, but also on the defensive end, Trayvon Diggs, man. I love that pickup on the defensive end as well. Sure, they lost quite a bit of people along the way. They lost Brian Jones, Robert Quinn, Travis Frederick, Jason Witten, Randall Cobb. Quite a bit has left, but I do believe they have enough on offense to win that division. Now, the other team that you got to kind of keep an eye on, and this is the reason why I picked the Cowboys, because I'm a little bit on the mixed side of how I feel about the Eagles. I thought they did great by picking up Jalen Reagor and Marquise Goodwin, really giving some vertical threats to Carson Wentz. But then they go and pick up Jalen Hurts in the second round, a quarterback that's supposed to be backing up Carson Wentz, who in my eyes is a starter. So that's the reason why I give the Cowboys the nod here, but keep an eye on the Eagles as well, man.
Yeah, I have it flipped. I have the Eagles winning the division, and it's only because, I like the moves that they made in the draft. I like the trade of Marquise Goodwin as well, too. They had a lot hinged on, Deshaun Jackson last year, who really only balled out for one game, and then he hurt his quad, and he was done for the year. But, they have speed. They have two stud tight ends. But they also they made that trade for Darius Slay to fix a secondary that all three of us could torch, for Christ's sake. But I think at the end of the day, continuity is going to be key. I mean, Dallas has a new coaching staff. There's all this drama going on. Surprisingly enough, it's not about weed yet, but that could change. Somebody could fail a drug test. But really, all this drama is just surrounding Dak Prescott, and are they going to hammer out a deal when they should have just got the deal done last year instead of paying Ezekiel Elliott? But that's a discussion for another podcast. But I think I have the Eagles with an edge. I didn't mind the draft pick of Jalen Hurts, only because if Jalen Hurts was the backup last year instead of old man Josh McCown, they win that football game against the Seattle Seahawks. So, I get it. You signed Carson Wentz to this long franchise altering contract for your team. Why are you drafting a quarterback in the second round? Well, look at the playoffs last year, and that's why. And then I think a team that could surprise some people, I think they could play spoiler, is the Washington Redskins. They picked up Antonio Gibson and a couple other people in the later rounds of the draft. They're speedsters, and you have old man Adrian Peterson coming back. But I liked what I've seen so far out of Dwayne Haskins. He's cut down on the weight. He looks leaner. He looks, his footwork has kind of improved a little bit in these modified training things that he's doing. And I think he looks good. I think he could be poised for a step forward, especially with the coaching staff that wants him down in Washington. So I think they could play spoiler a little bit.
I agree with Philly having the edge. I think Dallas has a ton of talent, but just that continuity with the team chemistry is such a big aspect of winning, and they seem to really haven't figured that out. And it's depressing, because you would think that with all the talent that they have, that they would be an elite team, but they're not.
Yeah. And what's your thoughts on that whole Carson Wentz, Jalen Hurts situation? Because to me, that was a head scratcher, right? I mean, you clearly need speed and you clearly need wide receiver help and offense help. But instead, you go out and you pull one of those moves that, like the Packers did, and you draft a very competent, highly qualified quarterback to sit behind your franchise quarterback. It's like a mixed message signal going on there.
Yeah, absolutely. It means you either are planning for the future, or you may have some other idea of a package deal to trade him.
Yeah. Puma, do you think that whole Carson Wentz thing, do you think they look at the last couple of years and the fact that he seems to be always injured? He's never really there when they need him. Even this year in the playoffs, I'm sure, listen, it's not his fault that he got concussed, but he wasn't there for them. Do you think that played into a reason why they took Jalen Hurts?
I think what played into it, I mean, I'm going to give Carson the benefit of the doubt because what's his name? Clowney went headhunting. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt on that one. But I think really it's just, like I said, they win that game if they have a younger, more agile quarterback in there. I mean, Josh McCown was playing with his hamstring torn off his ass. He wasn't able to move anymore. I think they just wanted to have an insurance policy in place in case Carson Wentz gets hurt, break glass in case of emergency. And especially in this division where, it could come down to week 17, Dallas, Philly at the Lincoln Financial Field. So you want to make sure you have all your ducks in a row. I don't mind that draft pick. I don't even mind the Jordan Love pick, because I mean, we all know the worst time to pick a quarterback to bridge the gap for your franchise is when you actually need to. So if you want to plan for the future, if you think that's your best bet, have at it. I mean, just
what do you
look
think,
at the.
What do you think is the long-term plan for Jalen Hurts? Is he going to be a career backup, or is he going to be a backup for a couple of years to Carson Wentz, and they essentially trade him off, or do you think he eventually will supplant Carson Wentz in a year or two when Carson Wentz gets hurt again and Jalen Hurts comes in and leads them on a great run? Do you think they actually will move off of Carson Wentz, or do you think he's it for the next 10 years?
I think he's it. I mean, they've even come out and said this, they being Howie Roseman, the GM, and Doug Peterson, the head coach. They said they want to be a quarterback factory. They want to produce quarterbacks and train them up. And Howie Roseman, after the draft, talked of a story of how when they forget what year it was when Russell Wilson came out, but like they were looking at drafting him. I mean, I think they drafted a quarterback in that draft as well, but they were looking at drafting Russell Wilson, but Seattle jumped them in the draft and they took him. But there was a time when Russell Wilson and another quarterback that they drafted, his name is escaping me, they could have been on the same roster. So this isn't new to Howie Roseman, and I think Howie didn't want a repeat of that draft class that Wilson was in.
Okay, all right. Okay, next up, the NFC North. And I have the Minnesota Vikings winning this division. Sure, they lost quite a bit in Stephon Diggs and Everson Griffin and Xavier Rhodes, but on the back end, they kind of muscled up in the draft, man. They brought in Justin Jefferson, Jeff Gladney, and there's Cleveland. I think for the most part, Minnesota's going to go ahead and win this division. I had it between Minnesota and Green Bay, and the reason why I gave it to Minnesota was because of all the negative juju you hear coming out of Green Bay and the fact that Aaron Rodgers is being alienated, and they took Jordan Love, as his replacement. So I gave the Minnesota Vikings an edge on that. But for the most part, the Detroit Lions and Chicago Bears, man, the afterthoughts are not going to really do much at all. I think time is ticking on what's his face up there in Chicago. What's that guy's name? Mitchell Trubisky. Yeah, I'm sorry, Mitchell Trubisky, as I call him, right?
Turd.
Right, here we go.
But essentially, his time is ticking. The Bears are going to do much, man. Nick Foles is probably going to be starting halfway through the season.
Which isn't an upgrade.
Yeah, right. But give me the Vikings out of this division.
Oh, for sure. I mean, give me the Vikings as well, too. I mean, really, the only question is Dalvin Cook going to hold out? I mean, under the new CBA, contract holdout situations, they can, that player can be punished a little bit more, strictly to get them back into camp. But, he wants to get paid. The offense goes through him. So it's going to be interesting to see what the standoff's going to be, who's going to blink first. I didn't mind the pick of Justin Jefferson. I just, you traded Stephon Diggs, you draft Jefferson to most of the time, he's going to be playing out of the slot, but you have a bona fide slot receiver in Adam Thielen. I know they're going to try to kick him outside, but I think he's more effective inside of the formation. And the Packers, I don't even have them as a wild card team. Last year, in my opinion, they were the most fraudulent 13-win team in the NFL, one of the most fraudulent teams next to the Dallas Cowboys last year. And, with the moves that they made in the offseason or lack thereof in getting wide receiver help, I don't really see them doing what they did last year. And, Aaron Rodgers, yeah, he's one of the best quarterbacks of this generation, but it's reason to stand. He's kind of taken a step back over the last couple of years. He's not that big of a Superman that he once was, and he's been hurt often. And I think that's why they pulled the trigger on Jordan Love, besides all the backroom drama that was going on prior to the start of last year with the whole Audible thing. So I think they got Matt LaFleur's guy in there. Aaron Rodgers will be there for at least 2 more years, and then it'll be the Jordan Love show. But I don't have them making a playoff run this year.
Yeah, I think they're on the fence. Their defense didn't get better at all. It just stayed the same. So, I mean, it's like, where are they going from here? They just have
your 49ers are still running on them, Mike. Your 49ers are still running on that defense right now.
Yeah, it's true. It is true. But I agree with you guys. I think Minnesota's the clear favorite in this division.
Our boy Aaron, the Vikings fan, will be very happy to hear that.
Yep.
Oh, I'm sure.
How's Aaron doing, man? Have you seen him lately?
I have not seen him lately, no, but I hear word on the street is that he's never going back to work. He is just he has decided that, hey, I can do everything possible that I do in the office at home.
Yeah.
What is the point for me to going back to the office? There is no benefit. So he just made that stance like he's going to stay home now. And they either like it or they don't.
Well, I think the only reason he would ever go back, and I know Aaron, for the last couple of years, I think the only reason he'd go back is so he can sit in that desk and look at that picture of Jay Chima that I signed for him.
Absolutely. The shrine, he has his little shrine with a couple other ex-employees up there on the wall, their badges and their signatures.
Who was that guy that when I started like 2 years ago? We would always make fun of him on the charter calls. You remember? What's his name? Oh, God.
Max.
Yes.
Max Schwartz, the legend.
Oh.
Yeah. Is his badge up there on the wall as well?
Absolutely.
That
thing's never coming down.
It kind of concerns me. My picture's up there with the rest of the negative juju / people that have kind of left, Clay Lacy kind of thing,
Well, Matty Ice is up there. Matt Roden. He's still a dear friend of mine. I still play golf with him all the time. So, there's not bad juju up there.
Well, I never really got to meet Matt, but he's at Latitude 33 now, correct?
He is.
Nice. Cool. All right, next up, the NFC South, and I think this is going to be the best division in football, man. You've got the Atlanta Falcons, Carolina Panthers, the New Orleans Saints, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We could realistically see 3 teams get in from NFC South, right? In regards to the Atlanta Falcons, man, listen, they did not much, but I did like that pickup of Todd Gurley. It really stabilizes that offense. The Atlanta Falcons can be either really good or really bad. We just don't know. As the season pans out, we'll figure it out. But I think for the most part, adding Todd Gurley and taking some pressure off of Matt Ryan, not to actually force the ball into tight windows or down the field, is going to do wonders. I think the Saints had a very efficient offseason as well. They didn't really go out and do crazy shit, but they brought in veteran talent such as Emmanuel Sanders and Malcolm Jenkins, right? And they brought in Jameis Winston to back up Drew Brees just in case he goes out again. Now, obviously, you guys know my love for Tom Brady, right?
Yeah, here we go.
I've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers win this division. I got them going 14-2. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Tom Brady, Rob Gronkowski. They actually had a great draft as well. They had Tristan Wirfs, that offensive tackle, fall in their lap, and they added a 5th-round wide receiver in Tyler Johnson that I really liked as well. So I think this division is going to be a bloodbath, man, week in and week out. It's going to start week 1 with the Saints and the Buccaneers going head-to-head, and I think I got 2 definitely. I definitely have 2 teams making the playoffs from this division, maybe 3.
Yeah, I'm with you on this. The division being one of the best. I have them the 2nd best division behind the NFC West. I have the Saints winning this division. Like I said, for the Eagles, continuity is going to be key. I mean, that coaching staff and that roster in New Orleans has been basically the same since the start of Sean Payton's entire tenure there, which I think is almost a decade at this point. They didn't even do any off-season programs through Zoom. Sean Payton straight up told them, just stay healthy, stay away, just do your thing on your own. Just make sure you're in the best shape of your life come training camp time. And it looks like they survived Drew Brees putting his foot in his mouth a couple of weeks ago. So I have them winning this division. I have the Buccaneers as a wild card team just because of how this NFC is going to shape out. Obviously, having Tom Brady there is an upgrade, but it's going to be interesting to see how Bruce Arians adjusts his offense to tailor Tom Brady. It's going to be unrealistic to have a no risk it, no biscuit type of offense and have Tom Brady stand back there and drop back 43 times and air the ball out. It's going to be interesting to see how they weave Rob Gronkowski in there. I mean, let's be honest. He was on the shelf for a year. He had 2 major back surgeries, almost a 3rd one. Is he going to hold up to being back in a contact sport? Is he going to be in football shape? I know he was wrestling a bit and he's been working out on the side, but there's a lot of football rust on that body. And the Falcons, I could see them being a dark horse team as well, but the only issue for me is depth. I mean, if Todd Gurley goes down, your next running back up is going to be Ito Smith and I think a Michael Hill. If Julio goes down, it's Austin Gage and Calvin Ridley. That's always been their knock, is they're stacked. They're the stacked roster like the Dallas Cowboys to an extent, but they don't have enough depth to make a deep playoff run. But give me the Saints all day, every day until otherwise noted.
Yeah, I agree. I 100% agree. I think it goes Saints, Bucks, Falcons, Carolina. Who knows with Tampa Bay? I mean, they look great just because they got a few pieces, but how's it going to work? You just alluded to Bruce Arians, and how's he going to develop this system? So I got them as a wild card as well, but I think the Saints are they're at the top of their game. They're right there. They've been there for many, many years, and I don't see anybody contending with them.
And the coronavirus is actually going to do wonders for the Saints because they're bringing back essentially their whole team and they have continuity. With the Buccaneers, man, they're throwing everything into a blender and hoping it works, right? I mean, they can't really have an off season. They're trying the best they can with Tom Brady out there, doing his little workouts. But for the most part, the Saints will have a leg up just because of coronavirus itself.
But you see what working out too much does for you. I mean, did you watch the match?
Oh, my God.
Tournament?
Oh, my God. That was the one golf tournament I've ever watched.
Tom Brady's out there before it playing 18 holes. He's out in the parking lot doing workouts, and then he gets on to the course, and he sucks balls. So
what'd you expect? He's not a professional golfer. He's
here we go.
Neither is
did you expect him to go out there and beat Tiger Woods?
I don't
know. I mean, Peyton Manning was talking him up. Peyton Manning was talking him up going into that game.
Well, Peyton Manning's been retired for 5 fucking years, man. All he does is play golf. Tom Brady is a football player. He's a quarterback. He's the greatest of all time. And this year, he's going to win the Super Bowl again. All right? So fuck you guys.
You know what? I'm going to say this. This is going to be hot takey, but there's so much hype around Tampa Bay that I can't get the comparison out of my mind of the hype that was surrounding the Cleveland Browns last year.
That's embarrassing. Yeah. That's embarrassing to Tom Brady because essentially what you're saying is he is just as immature as Baker Mayfield is.
No, what I'm saying, Jay, is there's so much hype surrounding this team. Every first-year quarterback under a Bruce Arians system, you can look at Ben Roethlisberger all the way to Jameis Winston. Every time a first-year quarterback is in that system, they lead the league in interceptions. Carson Palmer did it in Arizona. Jameis did it last year. I think Drew Stanton did it when he was with BA. Ben Roethlisberger sure as shit did too. And I just think that there's, like I said, it's no shot against Brady. He is the greatest of all time. But there's so much hype surrounding this team. Shaq Barrett hasn't signed his franchise tag yet. They don't even know if he's going to show up at camp or training camp and be in shape to compete for the season. And, they're playing in a hotbed state for COVID. Their players already tested positive for this. There's just so much going against them with the headwind of the hype train that's going on. And I think that if they get off to a slow start, the pressure from the national media is going to be overbearing to, besides Tom Brady, a very young roster. That's my one thing with this whole hype train.
If we were in non-COVID times, I would be flat out just vehemently denying everything you're saying and going against it. But the only truth of your argument is that COVID-19 thing. I firmly believe, obviously, that Tom Brady is a better quarterback than Ben Roethlisberger, Drew Stanton, or whatever, right? Jameis Winston. I think he'll be able to control the ball and not turn it over as much as those guys did. But I think that COVID-19 thing, that's the one that you really got to kind of watch, man. That I think is going to be the main player. Has Tom Brady learned enough of the playbook and enough of continuity with the receivers for week one to be, kind of go without an off season? That the COVID-19 thing is what I think is going to hold them back.
We'll see. We'll see if they're off to a slow start in the modified Bruce Arians system. Are they going to go back to no risk it, no biscuit? Somebody better start saying a prayer for Tom Brady, or Gisele's going to have him go into early retirement. He won't even finish off the year.
All I'm saying is 14-2, and we're going to the Super Bowl.
All right.
Wow.
Okay. Don't let that avocado ice cream hit you in the face when they throw it in.
The next up, the NFC West, second best division in football. It's going to be a bloodbath out there as well. A lot of people are giving quite a bit of hype and love to the Arizona Cardinals, and I see why. They're expecting Kyler Murray to take that next step in his sophomore year, and they added DeAndre Hopkins to line up on the other side of Larry Fitzgerald. You can't go wrong with that. But that Clemson hybrid Isaiah Simmons pickup is where I think it got really interesting for the Arizona Cardinals. That's the reason why I give them an A, because that dude is an absolute freak. I have the 49ers still winning this division just because they're tried and true for the most part. They did lose quite a bit in free agency. They lost to Forrest Buckner, Emmanuel Sanders, Matt Breida. But the fact they brought in Trent Williams, I mean, that's like a show-stopping trade right there, right? So I got the 49ers winning. I got the Cardinals as a dark horse team. Seattle's always going to be there with Russell Wilson, man. I mean, the guy, no matter what you throw around him, he's going to get his team to 9 wins, 10 wins. So keep an eye out on them. And I think LA Rams are kind of the odd man out looking in, man. I think all those very aggressive moves they made a couple of years ago with Todd Gurley and Brandon Cooks and everybody else, I mean, that's catching up to them now. Now you're finally seeing just this is a make it or break a year for, I believe, Jared Goff, right? You're starting to see this team not perform the way it did a couple of years ago, and it's starting to bite him in the ass, all those big moves they made.
Yeah, he already restructured his contract that the ink just dried on from last year to free up cap space to sign Jalen Ramsey. And I mean, this is the Rams example is really what happens when you go all in and it doesn't work out and you trade away. They don't have a first round draft pick for the next 3 years because of what they did to get Brandon Cooks and what they did to get Jalen Ramsey. Their cap space is a mess. I'm with you. I think they're on the outside looking in too. I have the 49ers winning. I love the draft that they had. Brandon Ayuk in space in a Kyle Shanahan system. Give me that all day. I'm going to get him early in some fantasy football drafts for sure. That running back situation, you have Raheem Mostert. You have Jerick McKinnon might be coming back. He's still under contract. I mean, that running back hydra is insane. Like I said, they're still running on the Green Bay Packers right now, for Christ's sake. And I really like to see what this offense does going through Brandon Ayuk. I'm a little worried about Deebo Samuel breaking his foot this week. He's going to be out for 3 to 4 months, but he should be able to come back. But who's going to step up? Is it going to be Dante Pettis? Is it going to be Kendrick Bourne? That's going to be the interesting thing to see. I'm on the Cardinals hype train. I've said it the last couple of episodes. I have a ticket for Kyler Murray to be an MVP this year. I think he's going to take a giant step forward in his second year. Again, continuity is going to be key, and he played like an absolute stud down the stretch last year, and it kind of coincided with Dancing Cliff Kingsbury finding his stones in the red zone and going for it a little bit more instead of kicking it all the time. I think this is going to be interesting to see. They shored up that offensive line a little bit. They did that Simmons draft pick where you can line them up anywhere. The offense is looking a little bit more fluid under Kenyon Drake, former Dolphin. Breaks my heart, but we never used him right. And DeAndre Hopkins is just going to be a yak machine, yards after catch, to complement Christian Kirk and a young wide receiver core. So give me the Cardinals as a wild card team, and I have the 49ers winning the division.
Yep, me too. I'm a huge Niner fan, so absolutely. Absolutely. We were minutes away from a Super Bowl title until, Magic Mahomes came through and just stomped on our throats. But yeah, I look forward to this year. I think these two rookies, I mean, they already signed them to their 4-year rookie deal. So it's obviously a note that they got some supreme confidence in these guys. But yeah, I mean, other than that, like, Seattle is always a threat to the 49ers. They always are. I enjoy watching their games because they're crazy competitive. The last 2 games that they played, they were, nail-biting games. So, and I think Goff's, he's at that plateau where it's make or bust. You got to come out and really start being a showstopper. Other than that, he's just going to get dumped to the side like Johnny Manziel.
Yep, for sure.
Let me ask you a question, Mr. Hammertime. What is your feelings on Jimmy Garoppolo? Are you in on him for the long haul? Or with the fact that the Niners this offseason made a run at Tom Brady and weren't very firm in their beliefs of Garoppolo. What's your thoughts on Garoppolo as your franchise quarterback?
I am very on the fence, to be honest with you.
Why is that?
I just don't have as much confidence in Jimmy as a Tom Brady or as a Drew Brees or as any of the elite quarterbacks, Russell Wilson. I mean, you name it. There's at least like 6 or 7 of them that I would honestly rather take as a starting quarterback. This team is elite, and it needs an elite quarterback. And Jimmy, to me, he's like, if I was to rank him by a percentage, to me, he'd be like a 75% type of quarterback. So I feel like they are on the fence as well with him, whether or not they really want to sign him to an extreme long-term contract, or they're going to try and make another move, draft a young quarterback. Not sure. But me personally, as soon as they landed Jimmy, I wasn't the biggest fan. I just felt like he's not a gamer to me. I look in his eyes and I see the way he plays, and he's not the Phillips River competitive, talk shit in your face, like you're gonna fear me type of quarterback that I wish he was.
Yeah. No, and the reason why I bring it up is because I saw the same exact thing you saw as a Patriot, right? I mean, he was with us for a couple of years, and I just didn't see it, and which it always infuriated me when people, always made the comparison of being the next kind of Tom Brady stepping in and taking over bullshit. But the reason why I asked that question,
you get upset if anybody says that, even if the water boy. Come on now.
Yeah, well, when you're comparing the greatest of all time to some trash ass quarterback, then of course they get upset, right? Let me ask you a question, Mike P. What is it going to take for you this year? Like, what do you want to see out of Jimmy G? Like, do you want him to go to Super Bowl and win it for him to the long-term answer? Or do you want, what is it for you? What is it going to take for you to have him on board for the long haul?
I mean, I'm going to throw in a basketball comparison, right? So the way that I feel like Jimmy G is, I compare him to a man named Dwight Howard, right?
Ooh,
you guys all know Dwight Howard.
Oh, I know Dwight Howard, Orlando Magic and the former Laker.
Of course, yeah. The guy was projected to be like this amazing basketball center, could dominate like Shaq could, but he just didn't have it inside of him to dominate. He was like, a fucking pansy. He just wouldn't take that step mentally. And the way that I feel the same way about Jimmy. I just feel like he's there. He's a great quarterback, but he's never going to take that step. Just mentally, he's not there.
Yeah, and the way that Dwight Howard's career panned out, man, he had a couple of great years in Orlando, lost to the Lakers in the finals, and then he just kind of, after that, he wasn't the same. I mean, he got traded around to Lakers, the Rockets, and now he's back with Lakers again. Like, he just wasn't the same. And I remember when he was with the Lakers the first time around, Shaq was hard on him, because he wasn't performing to the level that he should have.
Pushing him.
And instead of rising to the occasion, dominant. You're right. And instead of rising to the occasion and actually being great, he kind of withered. And you're right with Jimmy Garoppolo. He had a chance in the Super Bowl. He had a streaky Sanders to win the game, and he just didn't come through. So I think you make a great point there.
Yeah.
Yeah, run the ball a little bit more. You might have a ring. I'm going to say this about Jimmy G. I think I want to see what he does this year. And the reason why I say that is because he'll be a full year removed from ACL surgery. It's commonplace. It takes a full year of recovery for the player to feel more confident in being able to make those moves in the pocket or make a jump cut or pivot and have confidence in that ligament holding up. So if he's playing skittish this year, because there were times last year where he balled out, he lit the Superdome on fire with Emmanuel Sanders and different routes that had generated space. I mean, he blew the lid off of that joint in a shootout with the Saints. He was up there statistically last year. So if he's able to take a step forward with a full year removed from that knee surgery, I think that he's going to be the quarterback for the long term. And if not, they can cut him at the end of this season and not take a ginormous cap hit.
Okay. All right. Well, let's wrap this up, man. Let's wrap up with our Super Bowl picks. I will turn the floor over to the guest, Mr. Hammertime. What are your way too early Super Bowl predictions.
I think it's going to be a rematch.
Okay.
Okay.
I think the Niners are going to make it, and so are the Chiefs. I think it's going to be a great duel, and I'm hoping that the Niners figure out the game plan this year and they take the title.
Okay. Mr. Puma?
All right. So here's my let's get nuts scenario. All right. So you have the Steelers as a wild card team. They're going to make it to the AFC Championship game. They're going to meet the Chiefs in Arrowhead with or without fans. I have the Steelers winning that matchup. I like their defense a little bit more over the Chiefs. The NFC side, I got the 49ers Cardinals in the NFC Championship game. Mike, I'm sorry, my guy. I got Arizona going to the Super Bowl, and I think we're going to have a rematch. Cardinals Steelers from 5-6 years ago, and I think the Steelers are going to come out on top. I like their defense. I like what they did on the offensive side of the football. If James Conner can stay healthy, Juju's moving inside, Les Claypool is going to be playing outside to stretch the field, and if Ben Roethlisberger can just stay healthy, I think this team could make a deep playoff run and get a Lombardi trophy.
Dude, you weren't fucking lying. That is very fucking nuts. Oh my God.
Yep. Let's get nuts. Hey, it's the early part of the year. It's the summer. It's the slow season. Why not get nuts? Let's go.
I can buy the Arizona Cardinals thing. Yeah, I can see Kyler Murray taking that next step, and they're loaded on offense, and they got a good defense.
Yeah.
I don't know how much is left in the tank for Big Ben. I mean, essentially that surgery he had. I mean, they didn't give us the full details of it, but it seems like it was a Tommy John surgery.
Yeah.
Those surgeries, I mean, we don't know how he's going to come back. Is he going to be great? Is he going to be mediocre? Is he going to be done? Is he washed up? I think I'd feel more comfortable if they had a viable backup instead of Duck Hodges, whoever the fuck is backing him up. But if they had like a Cam Newton backing him up or bringing him in, I could buy that. But I mean, Big Ben, I can't buy that Super Bowl just.
Here's the comparison I'm going to make to the Steelers. Look at the Steelers and look at the 96 and 97 Broncos when they won back-to-back championships. John Elway was at the end of his career. I think he was banged up a few times as well too. They won on a running game and a strong defense. Like there are people in the Hall of Fame from those Broncos teams that just balled out that year along with their entire career. If they could win with the defense that they have with Minkah Fitzpatrick and Joe Hayden and everybody else out there, with a young Devin Bush who looks like a prototypical Steeler, if they can win with a strong defense and a good running game, I mean, even if James Conner goes down, you have Benny Snell and another competent backup back there, I think this team could do wonders in the playoffs.
Part of me has an issue picking the Steelers because, to be real, Mike Tomlin hasn't lived up to the billing, right? He has won one Super Bowl, but for the most part, we expected. I think one of the biggest travesties of the last 5 years is the fact that Steelers with Big Ben, AB in his prime, and Le'Veon Bell in his prime did not win a Super Bowl, and they could never get over New England, right? And I think Mike Tomlin has something to do with that. I'm not trying to denigrate the man. I think he's a good coach, but I don't think he's in that elite level.
Man, you see what Mike Tomlin was dealing with? That guy should be nominated for sainthood with the AB and the Le'Veon Bell and Big Ben being addicted to Pornhub and booze and popping pills.
Well, coming from you, I thought AB was the greatest wide receiver of all time.
I mean, statistically, he is the greatest wide receiver. One of the greatest wide receivers of all time. Was on track for a Hall of Fame career until he had the helmet foot saga. But I think Steelers going all the way. Mike Tomlin, that franchise hasn't really had any turmoil at the head coaching position. Over the last 40 years, they've had three: Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, and Mike Tomlin.
I didn't say he's not a bad coach. I didn't say he's a bad coach. I just don't think he's an elite level coach, man. I think with that team and the Steelers and who they are, they should be winning more Super Bowls. I mean, you always talk about the legendary franchises of the NFL, the Cowboys, the Steelers, and you expect them to be in the Super Bowl like contention every other year. But I mean, he's won one, and he hasn't ever gone back to close to an AFC championship game or even sniffed, a Super Bowl. So I think we got to look at Mike Tomlin in a way like, hey, listen, have you lived to billing yet or not?
Hey, they won more Super Bowls in the last 20 years than the Dallas Cowboys have. I don't think they've won one in 27. So
yeah, but what's that got to do with Mike Tomlin right now? Like, I mean, that's the old Dallas Cowboys. We won 3 in the 90s. It doesn't matter right now,
Again, if they could have Ben Roethlisberger stay relatively healthy and win and lean on that defense, oh yeah. And I think he's the guy to do it, especially with the young roster.
Let's say 6 weeks in, Big Ben hurts himself and that arm again. Do you think they call Cam Newton?
I think Cam Newton's going to be signed before week 6, only because I think he's going to be, a quarterback gets hurt in training camp kind of deal. Like, I think he's going to be a Jay Cutler kind of quarterback.
Hold that thought. I want to ask one more question after I give you my Super Bowl picks, which I assume you guys already know. It's going to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers win the Super Bowl. Doesn't really matter who's on the other end. Tom Brady's going to throw 50 touchdowns this year, win the MVP, and win Super Bowl MVP. So let's go past that, all right? Let's just get past that, all right?
Okay.
But the question I have for you guys is, if you had to just randomly pick one team where Cam Newton's going to end up this year, what team do you think it would be? I'll have Mikey P start out.
I don't know. I'm throwing a wrench in here, but
yeah, I mean, just off the cuff, man. Just throw a name out there.
I feel like he's gonna go to the Rams. I feel like Jared Goff is gonna get hurt. His career is gonna be over, and they're gonna look to a savior. And who but not Cam Newton to come to LA.
Superman is flying to the City Angels. I can buy that. I mean, like I said, barring, because I just think he's going to be a training camp injury signing. He's going to be a Jay Cutler. I mean, if you held a gun to my head, Chicago, I think, he would be a massive upgrade over both Nick Foles and Mitchell Trubisky. I think Colin Kaepernick being in mothballs for 4 years, he would be an upgrade in Chicago. I mean, they have, if you combine both quarterbacks at this point, they'll have one. But besides that 1 year Nick Foles had with Chip Kelly, he's been a career backup at best. Like he had that magical run with the Eagles. Is going to be one of the most, talked about all-time runs in NFL history as a quarterback. But I mean, beyond that, like that's really all it is. I mean, he couldn't win the job back from a guy known more for his jorts and his mustache in Jacksonville than anything out of Washington State, besides leading the nation in passing. I think anybody at this point would be a massive upgrade in Chicago.
Yeah, and I think, Puma, my original thought went to the Bears as well. But I think the fact that you have two quarterbacks that they want to see this year kind of works against Cam, right? So you have Mitch Trubisky. Let's say he wins out and, he starts out of the gate. Let's say, 6 weeks in he gets pulled. But then you're going to give another 4 to 5, 6 weeks to Nick Foles. At that point, you're at week 12 of the season. I mean, is Cam really going to come in and do anything at that point, right?
Yeah.
I think Jacksonville Jaguars is where it's going to be, man. I think this whole what was it last year? The guard who Minshew Mania, is that what they called it?
Yeah, Minshew Mania.
I was so fucking annoyed by that, man. I'm like, dude's won 2 fucking games. He has a mustache. People are making it out like he's the next goddamn fucking great quarterback. But I think he's gonna start the year out. He's gonna have 3-4 games where he's gonna suck, and I think the Jaguars are gonna come calling for Cam Newton.
I think they're in tank for Trevor mode. They need to fill that stadium with fans, and they're not going to do that if they're winning football games. I can see it. I can buy it. I'm not shooting it down. I can buy it. That or Chicago.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, we had a great podcast. Do you guys want to get into anything else?
Oh, let's see. I think I said this, not to make a hard left on this, but I think, with all the COVID stuff going on right now and how some teams are going to be handling the beginning of training camp, I think, and I tweeted about this last week, it's going to get interesting in how the league as a whole and ownership deals with COVID-19 positive diagnoses, because it's been on the table that they'll place players on the non-football injury list, the NFI list, and it's up to the owners, but they don't have to pay those players. And if there's going to be teams that are going to put their players on the NFI list, that's going to be a huge union issue. And I think that could, rival the dirty laundry that's being aired out between the Major League Baseball Players Association and ownership. So they need to figure that aspect out before they have players showing up in training camp, because that is a workplace hazard at this point.
Makes sense. Okay. Mikey P, any last words?
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. I mean, the NBA was just talking today that, 16 players had tested positive, and, they were getting ready to have everybody go to Orlando. And it's like, well, what do you do now? It's the same situation for the NFL. Like when they come to training camp, like, what do you do? So I agree with you.
Mikey, you're a hooper. Who do you got? I know the schedule got released today. Who do you got going to the NBA Finals? I mean, I'm a Portland Trailblazers guy. I know they were on the outside looking in. Did they make the cut, or do they have to play their way in to the playoffs?
Ooh, I don't know about Portland, but I can definitely tell you, I think Milwaukee's going to take it this year. I think they're the depth of the team. Giannis was hurt towards like the beginning of the pandemic, and now all he's been doing is just rehab. So he's going to come back 100%. I think that they will, essentially beat the Lakers. I think it'll be the Lakers and Bucks in the finals. And yeah, I think the Bucks will take it this year. Even though I really wish that the Bucks would lose, because I think if the Bucks would lose, then the Warriors will have a better shot of trying to land Giannis, because that is the overall goal for the Golden State Warriors. Is right now we need Giannis. So that's my pick for basketball.
I saw the schedule got released a little bit ago, and looks like the Clippers and the Lakers are playing on July 30th at 9 p.m. And then July 31st, you got some more games. Mikey P, if I had to ask you for one dark horse team to keep an eye out, not the big dogs, not the Clippers or Lakers or the Pelicans, who is that one dark horse team to keep an eye on?
I think Dallas. Dallas is a sleeper team. Very, very.
I'll buy stock in that, Mike.
Team. Yeah, like Luka Doncic, he is amazing. And then when you put Porzingis in there, like they just have a very solid team. So I think they're going to make a little bit of a splash in the playoffs, and a lot of people didn't expect them to do very well this year. So yeah, that's my dark horse team.
It wasn't Luka hurt before this whole pandemic thing went down? He hurt his ankle, right?
Yeah. So, but I mean, right now everybody's just resting.
Right, exactly. He didn't have to worry about rehabbing and rushing back from an injury. He's had 3 months to do it on his own.
Or minute restrictions. Like, these guys are all healthy. This should be like the best playoffs possible, because everybody should be at the same level.
So what you're saying is I should drive to New Jersey and place a bet for the Dallas Mavericks to win the championship. Is that what you're saying?
Maybe. Well, what are the odds?
Okay. Yeah. You know what, Jay? While you're talking, I'm going to look up the odds real quick.
Yeah.
Now, Mike, I've been out of the loop on the whole NBA thing. Like, are they going right into the playoffs, or are they going to go ahead and like do some sort of like play-in games or whatever?
Yeah, there's like some teams on the bubble that they're gonna, have some like kind of like a tournament style where they'll get a chance to make the playoffs. But that's as far as I know. I mean, I'm not so much intuitive of what's going on here, because it keeps changing.
Right.
And especially with COVID right now, they don't even know if it's going to happen.
Yeah, makes sense.
All right, so Dallas is plus 4,000. So like a $5 bet on Dallas will pay out $205.
It's not bad odds.
Yeah, not too bad. Hey, if you really want to swing a home run, you can get the Washington Wizards at plus 30,000.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we covered quite a bit of ground. Puma, you want to plug us up real quick?
Yeah. So you can find this episode and previous ones of the Pro Football Radio podcast on Spotify, SoundCloud, Google Play, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and YouTube. Jay's been doing some magical editing and getting some audio up there, so you can listen to that in the background if you're suffering, working from home like we are. You can find us on social media, Pro Football Radio Podcast, Facebook and Instagram. On Twitter, it's at PFR Podcast. I'm on Twitter, Brando_Puma. Jay Chima is at Jay Chima. Mikey P, Hammertime, a.k.a. Frisco. Where can the good people find you on social media?
They can find me on Instagram. My Instagram is mike.anthony.p.
Sick. It's a good follow. You got, like I said earlier, you got handles, man. You got handles with the basketball.
Thank you, my
brother.
man. I really appreciate it.
Nice. Well, Mike, thank you so much for coming on board, man. We appreciate the insight.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it. This was an unbelievable time, and thanks for listening to my insight.
Oh, you'll be back on. You're a
back
49ers
on.
inside, my man.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
you can always call me in just halfway through. So, hey, what's Mikey P up to? Let me see.
Well, as the season goes on,
having a cocktail.
Yeah, as the season goes on, we're gonna have you guys back on quite a bit. We have a couple of guys that we brought in for our last podcast, and then we'll have you on from the West Coast as well. And then we're gonna try to bring on Aaron, the Vikings fan, as well, man.
Oh, absolutely! I would love to go on with Aaron at the same time.
Yes,
we have to make that happen.
We got to look at the schedule. If there's a 49ers Vikings matchup, you guys are coming on that week. I don't give a damn.
Absolutely.
We're going to make it happen.
Okay. I'm signing up for that.
All right, well, listen, thanks, everybody. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week.
Bye, con Dios.